Hello and welcome to the Valley. Today I am your host, Janet Michael. It is United Way Day. That is where we meet up with Andy Gale, CEO of United Way, Northern Shenandoah Valley. We catch up on what United Way is doing. We learn a little bit more about the local nonprofits in our area. And today, Andy, we're taking a little bit of a larger view because you have invited Angela Dubosky to join us, and she is the executive director for United Way of Virginia. So we're going to learn a little bit about how the United Ways work within each other, and then how all of us come together to make the most best impact for those in our community. So good choice in your guest today, Andy Gale.
I try sometimes.
Angela, welcome to the show.
Awesome. It is such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, folks.
My first question for you, I think, Angela, is that so many people that live here in the Shenandoah Valley, I'd like to think probably 95% of them are aware of the United Way Northern Shenandoah Valley. They've at least heard of us. They know who we are, and hopefully they know what it is that we do. But I don't know that everyone understands that there is a United Way worldwide. There are other United Ways in other communities. There is United Way Virginia. Can you explain how that hierarchy works?
Love to do that. We know that the local United Ways are the folks that know their community inside and out. They're those decision makers, and they have a lot of power to individualize what their communities need. One community may be more focused on housing assistance, and one might be a little bit more in the childcare arena. So it gives a lot of flexibility for the local United Way to be able to personalize what they're working on. As you go out from that, we have a state association, which I lead. And so we know also that these individual United Ways, we have 16 of them across the Commonwealth of Virginia. We know that there is power in the collective work that we do. And so a lot of what I get to do is understanding what Andy is doing here in your area, and then what's going on down in Southwest Virginia, and finding the commonalities. So we may have a program in one that's similar, but called something a little different, or where are the funding for it? So finding those common threads to be able to unite the work that we do across Virginia. And then to be able to take those and say, okay, how do we advocate together? How do we have a larger voice rather than just one community? How do we say, okay, we are thought leaders, we are $100 million annually across Virginia. And so that capacity, combine that with our partner agencies that we work with and the programs that we deploy, we are collectively the largest social service-based organization in Virginia. And so that has a lot of collective power to it. And so if you're going to the state or if you're going to the federal level to do some advocacy, when we unite and say, okay, we've got a variety of things that we do, but here's the commonality, here's the thread. And when you say we help people and we help people in your district, and here's how we do it in a variety of ways, it starts to get people's attention. And so that's a lot of what I get to be able to do is solve problems, find commonalities, be able to offer supports, best practices, resources for the local United Ways to strengthen and sustain them, but then also to then take their voices externally and collectively to build a stronger network. And then we have United Way Worldwide. And so they have a large corporate structure that provides resources for us. So it could be anything from training. We just got done doing a Capitol Hill Day and Advocacy Forum in Washington, D.C. this week. So they provide frameworks for us to do things better, board resources, training resources, branding resources. And then they also have national and international ties to fundraising efforts, grants, advocacy work. How do we look around the corner? And I think that's honestly one of the things, whether you're a local United Way or you're looking at the national level, we need to know what's around the corner to be able to provide our communities, not just with help today, but with the ability to say, okay, we are sustaining what we've got going on in our communities. And I honestly, I think that Andy does that really well.
The one thing that I've always appreciated about Andy as well is that he knows how to use worldwide to see what the international and national trends are, and then see, is that going to have an impact here in our community? A lot of times we see things on the national news that really don't have an impact on our day-to-day lives here in the Shenandoah Valley, but he's able to take that information and figure out how it applies here and what that may look like. That comes from having the benefit of being a member of this larger organization.
Well, and the ties. So United Way does a good job. We're not just a nonprofit. We have ties in the business community. We have ties in the local government. We have these ties. And when you put them all together, sometimes the picture looks a little bit different.
It's all about those conversations and connections. The Commonwealth of Virginia is huge, but at the same time, being able to call down to Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, to Newport News and say, hey, I have this question. I know you guys are doing something similar. How did you approach it? What did you do here? What did you budget? What did you write for this grant? It's been really neat. Everyone's been really open, especially I haven't even hit the 1 year mark here, but having a group of people I can ask questions to that know it, have the experience, and say, okay, well, when I was here, here's what I did. It's been real helpful, especially with us recharting our path as the United Way of the Northern Shenandoah Valley.
Angela, I can't imagine how many times in a week you probably get asked, what does United Way do exactly? How in the world do you answer that when you're talking about the entire Commonwealth of Virginia, unlike Andy, who is trying to explain it to people for the Shenandoah Valley?
It is interesting, especially for a brand that's been around in some communities 65, 70 years, other communities almost 100. And so you would think that we understand, but we are a trusted brand. And so for a lot of generations before ours, they're a trusted brand, they do good work. I may not know the complexity of what they do, but I'm trusting what they're doing. Today's philanthropist is looking for something a little bit deeper than that. And so I always started out with, in simple terms, we help people. It's not as simple though as saying we're a housing organization and we keep people stably housed. But the image that I like is that we are an umbrella that is the strategic look across the community. And my favorite example actually happened at the beginning of COVID. I was a local United Way leader at the time, and our community raised funds for those first 6 weeks. Everyone was rallying together and we were raising funds to figure out what we needed to do in the community. And I knew those first couple months were going to look different than months 4, 5, and 6. The first part was actually food. I'm suddenly without work and I've never been in that position. And so the funds that we had, we were able to strategically deploy over time, as opposed to if everybody in the community went and they gave to a food bank that is doing amazing work. That would be great. But when the need turns towards housing, when those rents were due, all the money is in that food market, right? And so with United Ways being that umbrella across the community to strategically deploy, we are raising funds and raising awareness for today, but we are also looking around the corner to say we need to work in our budgets. We need to make sure that we have things and security for our communities in months 4, 5, and 6. And sometimes that's in years 4, 5, and 6, or 10 years out rather than in just weeks and months. But it really solidified for me in a very real way. We're like, okay, today's need is this. What's tomorrow's need? And I think as we're coming off of all of those COVID dollars, for me right now, that's the crux. We're coming off of all of those COVID dollars. We made some nonprofit expansions during that time. And so, how do we, as a system of support for social services, how do we adjust those services at the time that we're going through the government changes that we are too? Right. So, as you're looking at SNAP benefits changing for families, as well as nonprofits coming off of COVID and needing to make adjustments, that creates a really vulnerable spot, not just in one community, but across the Commonwealth.
And I think that makes it even more complicated at times because we tend to have blinders on and only think of our community. And we don't realize that Southwest Virginia is going through a lot of the same things. And so is a community to the north, all around. And we don't think about how all of that at once has this huge impact. We're only thinking about what's happening in Strasburg or in Winchester or in Luray. It's good to have that 40,000-foot level.
It is. And then we even have folks still recovering from Hurricane Helene down in portions of our Commonwealth too. So you add life's unexpected pieces in there, and you need somebody that's looking out for tomorrow for our communities. And I think United Way is uniquely positioned to do that.
I would agree 100%. It's been really neat expanding my purview coming over here this last 11 months at this point. But I was so focused Winchester, Frederick, Clark in my previous role. And now to see Warren, Shenandoah, Page and learn what's going on down there, meet the nonprofits, meet the community and see they're doing some phenomenal work. I think I've talked about it on here before. A month in, I went down to Page County for the community action team and saw all the nonprofits around tables working together, finding a common cause and a common issue that's affecting everyone and seeing, okay, well, I can help with this part. I can help with that part. And watching it grow. And now that we're more comfortable, Kim and I, we're like, hey, let us help work with this advocacy work we're doing in Winchester, but let's bring it down here. Let's look at your data. Let's try to tell a full regional story of the impacts on changes from Washington, on the community, where the needs are. We're lucky. We get 2-on-1 state data as the United Way. And looking at our localities, it's the things we all know. It's the things we're all going to hear. If you look at the 211 calls, which is our state resource line. So anyone listening, if you have a challenge, you need help, you need assistance at all, you can dial 211 from your phone. You'll be connected to a Commonwealth database of resources with help with housing and shelter, food, utilities, healthcare, mental health, employment, clothing, childcare, government and legal, transportation, education, disaster, or other. And then we get that data and looking at our 6 localities, so Winchester, Frederick, Clark, Warren, Shenandoah, and Page, for the last year, 48.8% of those calls were for housing and shelter. The majority of them, 53% of those, for rent assistance. Next up, it's utilities. So 78% were electric, help with electric, and then gas and fuel. And then it jumps to food. 68% of those calls were for food pantries. So the needs are there. People are needing help, and our communities are rallying. That's the one nice thing I've seen. All 6 localities, and then talking to Angela and the rest of the United Ways in the states, I've been really impressed with the Commonwealth and the Virginians' drive to care and make that difference. Step up, do more, and really try to help their neighbors. And we're here to be that voice. We're lucky. We're all funded by the communities, and then we take those communities and help give the money out. The impact grants, like we talked about last month, or even for us to say, hey, let us be that voice, be that umbrella, be the collector of the data, and we'll tell the story. We'll advocate. The nice thing of the United Way brand, people will listen to us. We can get those meetings, and we can have those tough conversations with leaders and say, here's what we're seeing. Here are the needs. Here's the data. These are your constituents. We're not lobbying. We're not out asking for money, but we're just saying, here's the facts. Here's the data. Please use them in making your decisions.
And Andy, when you take that 211 data and then you use other sources like our ALICE data, asset limited, income constrained, employed, it is our folks that are working. Sometimes they're working a couple of different jobs, but they're still having difficulty making ends meet or making the monthly money coming in match the monthly money going out in different threshold areas. When you start to look at what people are making and the struggles that they're working on economically with that granular data from 211, the layers of data can give you a picture when you know how to dig into the pieces that can give you okay, here are where the gaps are in our community. How are we taking care of that? And that's where that umbrella piece comes in so strong. Where are the gaps? Where are we duplicating things? What do we need to look like for tomorrow? And how do we make changes so that we can have the strongest supports for our folks as possible?
Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about this advocacy piece of it, because you mentioned a second ago, Angela, that you just did a run, I'll call it, on Capitol Hill. That's something else that is incredibly valuable to the individual United Ways, because individually we don't have the voice that Virginia would have collectively. So that collective impact is incredibly important when we talk about advocacy. Can we talk about that a little bit more in the next segment?
Sounds great.
We're on the Zooms for United Way Day. Andy Gale is joining me. He is the CEO at United Way Northern Shenandoah Valley. His guest today is Angela Dubosky. She is the executive director for United Way Virginia. My typical disclaimer is I keep saying we because I am the board president for United Way Northern Shenandoah Valley. So full transparency here. We're going to come back and continue our conversation in just a couple of minutes. Got a few hours to give? You could make a local nonprofit's day. On September 19th, United Way NSV invites you to join over 900 volunteers for Day of Caring, the region's biggest single-day volunteer event. You'll help nonprofits across the valley by painting, landscaping, organizing donations, or doing light repairs, whatever's needed. No special skills, just a willingness to help. Whether you're solo or part of a team, your time will make a real difference. Sign up today at unitedwaynsv.org/Day of Caring. Be part of something bigger. Help us care for the Valley together. Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is United Way Day, so I am back on the Zooms today with Andy Gale. Andy is CEO of United Way Northern Shenandoah Valley. Andy's guest today is Angela Dubosky. She is the Executive Director for United Way Virginia. She explained to us in the first part of our conversation somewhat of the hierarchy for how United Way works, from the individual United Ways and communities to the Virginia level to the worldwide level even. I don't know that a lot of people realize, Angela, that United Way is a worldwide organization.
It gives a lot of reach, but then it also gives perspective. So we have perspective even if we're traveling from the northeast part of the state to the southwest part of Virginia. So to have a worldwide perspective also changes the work that we do. It changes it in a positive way.
We talked a little bit too about advocacy and how that can have a positive impact on our communities individually, but sometimes individually isn't the only positive impact that we need to make. We need to make it on a larger scale, whether it's statewide, countrywide, or in United Way's case, worldwide even. That's where all of us coming together, and you in particular, as the executive director for United Way Virginia, really plays a large role.
It does, because we really are able to see the collective need. When you start saying we have 100,000 people in our community and we're seeing this, and when someone else in another part of the state is saying we're seeing the exact same thing, need for housing, for instance. Annie mentioned that earlier was the number one call-in need on the 211 helpline. We're seeing that as folks are calling into United Ways looking for assistance too. So if we say we can take 100,000 and we can turn it into over 1 million people that are looking for and need assistance, people start to listen to the data and stats on a collective level a little bit differently. But really, to me, advocacy as we're doing it is really giving voice to the folks in our local communities, telling the stories in addition to those stats and bringing them to our lawmakers so that we can say, hey, listen, let us walk alongside you as you are serving your communities. They're the same as our communities. So how can we walk alongside and be your trusted partner as you're making decisions in the government, and then we are supporting through our nonprofit arms? How can we do this together to support the people that we all care about? And honestly, I think that is at its root is what advocacy should be, of here's potential partnerships. Let's build relationships so that we can do what we're doing better, smarter, more strategically.
I would hope that the elected officials that you encounter on the regular are grateful for the data, for the perspective, because there's no way any of our elected officials can have their finger on the pulse of every single community and every single thing that's going on. So having someone like you from United Way Virginia say, look, we don't necessarily have a dog in this fight. We're not coming to you with this information on one hand and our hand out on the other. You're giving of this information so that they can make more informed decisions for the constituents that they represent.
How many times in life have we all needed that phone a friend option, right? So somebody that has some knowledge that we need or a perspective that we need. And United Way leadership across the Commonwealth, especially when we're together and we can see that collectively, I think it's smart. I think it's a smart partnership to not say, oh, because you're a business community, you're over here and we're looking at you separately or differently than we're looking at nonprofits and we're looking at our elected officials. So I think that collaboration is just a smart move for people because they care. All the people that are engaged in public service care. They just have a different way of figuring out how to show that, whether it's money or whether it's attention or whether it's relationships. And if we position ourselves collectively as a resource, as a support, as a local expert in these areas, I think we have a greater capacity to make change, a greater capacity to serve strong and well than if we do it alone.
To look at it in that big picture, our United Way, so the Northern Shenandoah Valley, we've really pivoted. And while in the past we provided direct service, we're really wanting to be that resource for the community and for the other nonprofits. We want to be the ones that can write those bigger grants with partnerships. We want to be the ones that are saying, hey, you're a smaller nonprofit. You're doing the similar work to this other one in our same region. Have you met? Do you work together? We want to be the convener, bring them to the table, get the data, and then we can distill it down and tell a united story of our region, of the Commonwealth, of the country, and really localize issues. So there's been a lot of talk with the big beautiful bill that passed and the president signed into law That effect, we're still figuring it out, but there's a group of us that have been meeting, talking about how it's going to affect our locality. And Kim on our team that we've had on the show before, Kim Wilt's phenomenal. She took all that and was able to distill it down and give concrete examples of, if this passes how it's written, this is the effect on CCAP. This is the effect on the Sinclair Clinic. This is the effect on Shenandoah Alliance for Shelter and their housing or their rental assistance program. We're able to take those big nebulous issues that you can't necessarily fight as a singular nonprofit, bring groups together, understand, and then distill it out and then get that word out to our elected officials. We've met with Congressman Klein's office, both the senators. We've met with our state reps, the city councilors, the town councilors, anyone up and down the valley, and just said, hey, we have this data. We think you might want this data. It might make you better informed, make you change your mind, or also help you guide this vote. We just want to give it to you. We want to talk to you. We're happy to answer more questions. We're happy to debrief. And sometimes they come back and ask for more, which is pretty exciting to see. And we're excited for the opportunity, really being that voice for the Valley, for the community, for the nonprofits, and really talking about the needs.
And again, that information isn't limited to just those elected officials. Anybody can call up and say, hey, I heard on the radio that you were talking about this report. You're happy to share that report with anyone so that they also have that information.
Definitely. We have a website refresh coming. We're working on the final stages now. I want a data tab. I want data that we're going to pull from 211, that we're going to pull from the Alice reports, that we're going to pull from the work we do, just to say, hey, here's the information. Use it. It's raw. Extrapolate it. Give us credit. But we want people to have the information to make more informed decisions when they're giving. We're about to kick off another workplace giving campaign in the fall. So many people are like, well, what's my $5 do? It's combined with a bunch of others that are giving $5 a month. And we gave out over 430,000 in impact grants because of the community. That's a really fun part of my job, where the community raises the money. The community members evaluate using data that they know, that we know, that they then advise us who go to our board for the approval. That's really because of the community and their knowledge. It can't just be me and my team sitting here in our offices saying, ooh, I like you, you get money. I like you, I don't like you. That's not how this works. This is the community. It's our job as United Way to be the good stewards of those dollars. I think back to my grandparents' generation. It was so hard to give to a nonprofit back then. You had to write a check, you had to find their address, you had to get it to them. So back in the day, it was really easy. Oh, United Way, I can give to them. So 2026 is our 80th anniversary here in the Valley. So we were founded 1946 to serve Winchester and Frederick, added Clark soon after. We've since added Shenandoah, Warren, and Page, but we're still regionally. We're there. We want to make a difference. We want to respect the histories of the United Ways. If you gave me $10,000 and said, by the end of this radio segment, I have to give it all out, I'd jump on people's Facebook pages, drop money everywhere. It'd be done. It's really easy to give, but how do you give when you have a small amount? Or if you don't have a passionate project, where if you're super passionate about pets, call Lavinda at SPCA. Domestic violence, there's a Laurel Center, Phoenix Project. You have lots of options. But if you just want to make a difference in your community, leverage your money with so many others and let us help you.
Andy, my hope is that as folks come to your website and hear the stories of impact that you're making, I hope their hearts break, right? And so if we can get to a spot where people say, somebody should do something about that. We have some people that do that, but as a culture, if we can get to a spot that says someone should do something about that, I'm going to step in the gap. That's to me what advocacy should be. I'm going to step in the gap and help foster children that are aging out of the system. I'm going to help folks that are on limited incomes, that are retired. I'm going to step into a veteran's shoes. We each have something different that will break our heart. But United Way has those stories. You guys have that impact. You see across the community ways that your dollars in those impact groups can make a difference and engage. The dollars are helpful, the voice is helpful, the advocacy is helpful, the partnership, even just speaking well about what you're doing in the community, that helps to promote your activities too.
100%. We're excited. This community really gives. And that's what I've learned, learning way more about Page County and Warren and even Shenandoah. I knew they were there. I'd been for some things, but those communities, along with Winchester, Frederick, Clark, that we know and where I live, that people care. People want to do good. People want to help. So we have, outside of our office on the Our Health campus, it's partnership with CCAP, a few of the churches, and Our Health. There's a free fridge. So the fridge, every morning it's interesting. It's either packed full or empty. And by the next time I leave after a meeting, it's the opposite. There are people all day that are bringing just leftovers, bringing corporate office catering. There's Hideaway Cafe. Victoria is doing a really fun summer bingo where once a day they're making meals because they were sponsored to go into the fridge. but the people that are there using it are so thankful. We're just walking into our office and they think it's us and they're just like, oh my God, thank you. That shows that our communities care and will do what it takes to take care of one another. And I think that's a great thing to see, especially when things in the world feel dark, people feel disconnected. It's nice to see that a community can step up in so many different ways. And what I want to be is that sort of guide, that voice for, I'm really passionate about this. I want to help. What do you know? Be that sort of resource navigator, both for people wanting to help, nonprofits that want to expand. How can we get partnerships going? One of the first Virginia meetings, I spoke with Amanda in Harrisonburg and then Ravi in Charlottesville. And working with Ravi now, we've been able to expand the campaign for grade level reading through some Ready Region work they're doing. So it's been really neat to leverage the United Way network to understand not only the advice for a new leader, but to say, well, I'm working on this, you're working on this. Can we work together? Can we write new grants? There's more groups doing it that have been really great to work with, to understand and fight for Commonwealth-wide issues that affect us here in the Valley.
Andy, where can people go to learn more about United Way, Northern Shenandoah Valley? I know Day of Caring is going to be upon us before we know it. So are the portals open to volunteers, submit projects, be a sponsor, all that sort of thing?
It is. So you can go to unitedwaynsv.org is our website. And we have links there to sign up for Day of Caring if you want to get your corporate team. If you want to sponsor, that's awesome. Day of Caring, we always have said 1,000 people doing projects on one day makes a huge difference. We need those projects, nonprofits, churches, anyone that might have a cleanup. Also, this year we're adding admin. So if you need help with data entry, you need help maybe with your website, we might have specialized people at some of these corporations that sign up that could easily come in for a day and jumpstart your new project, get some stuff done that might not want to go do the manual labor. But sometimes it's fun to go in and break down walls, clean up brush, do that kind of stuff. People love it. It gets you out of your 9 to 5, your TPS reports, etc. So we have that too. So it's gonna be a really fun day, September 19th. First Bank's our presenting sponsor. We're gonna have a kickoff party at Shenandoah, thanks to their donation of the Wilkins Center. And then the after party at West Oaks. Levi and his team are going to do a great job for sort of an afternoon celebration. So say you can't get your team out to volunteer all day because you have reports, you have court, you have whatever you have with your office. You can bring them at the end of the day for a happy hour or an early out where you're going to have specials. Winchester Brew Works, their Canoe Love beer, they're going to do a special brew for us that we'll have at West Oaks. Canoe of Caring, special brew for the day that a portion of it will go back to us. So it's really fun to see the community get involved and engage and really celebrate the great work that we can do for one day, but then extend that out through the rest of the year.
Andy, as you were talking about that, I just did some quick math here. So if you had 1,000 people give 4 hours during that day, that's over $100,000 of capacity for your nonprofits. That is a pretty big deal in any community.
We're really pumped to get the people. We're really pumped to get the projects. And I think with so many nonprofits now that are on pins and needles, they're stressed that they don't know how they're going to keep the lights on, the doors open. They might have to cut programs. It's really nice for us to be able to say, hey, sign up. What can't you get to? Is it mulch and clean up your landscaping? Is it data entry? What are these things that we can take off your plate, bring volunteers in that really want to do it, that really want to help and make a difference? That's investing $100,000 into our local economy in one day. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a couple hours of your time. You don't even necessarily have to pull out your checkbook because it's as valuable on this day as your checkbook is any other day of the year.
Time, talent, and treasure. So yeah, it's great. You can write a check. I'll take $1 million check from anyone that would like to. Won't say no to that.
Angela, he asks for that $1 million check every single month when we do the show.
I would be disappointed if he didn't. Really.
But also, if you have time, volunteer your time. We can always use help in our office, data entry, things like that. And so many nonprofits do as well. We're a very small team of 4, but we love doing it. And I'm thankful every day for my team and the support from the board and the support from the community. It's really a cool way to give back. And it's awesome when a job doesn't feel like a job.
Hey, I would even challenge folks, if you have a specific skill or passion, I bet Andy could find a place that you could use that in volunteerism. So many people think, oh, I can only do a website, or I'm pretty good on social media or taking pictures or whatever. You don't know how valuable that could be. And since you have your finger on the pulse of your community and the nonprofits, you could easily help them to find a place to use their accounting skills, their drone footage, whatever it might be. You could help them to find a place for that.
We're totally happy to do that. You can reach out on our office. You can email me, agale@unitedwaynsv.org, or give us a call. Reach out on the website. We're happy to connect you. There's so many people that have so much they want to do. If you just have a few hours you want to volunteer, we'll send you to the Volunteer Action Center over at Our Health. Miss Mary does a great job getting people and projects in. But if it's something specific that you just don't know, I'm happy to make the call. We're in meetings all day talking to so many nonprofits, so many different groups. We'll get you matched up.
And Angela, where can people learn more about United Way Virginia?
Oh, thanks for asking. Very simply, you can go to uwva.org. Lots of ways to get involved in advocacy, and my email as well is just angela@uwva.org.
Thank you for taking the time to chat with Andy and I today. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
And Andy Gale, it's always good to see you, even though in just a few short hours, I'm going to see you in 3 dimensions.
Now you're stuck with me, Janet.
If you're looking for something really cool and fun to do this weekend, I just saw on Facebook that Seven Bend State Park in Woodstock is having a Firefly Walk on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. So go look up Seven Bend State Park on Facebook and find that event. That sounds like a really cool thing to do, given the fact that a conversation I had a few months ago implied that we may be the last generation to see fireflies. So go take the kids and have one of those memory-making nights, and then I will meet you back here on Monday with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, just a few minutes after noon.